Some time ago I did a video for a young man trying to get him to get a little bit more distance between his hands and his body at address, and then of course at the point of impact. I referred him to what's called the share drill, which I've used for many years, and just basically trying to get him to say what's the controlled separation that we want between the hands and the body at the point of impact. The question then becomes, how do we take this to the practice area and then to the golf course? Most players that I know, certainly the ones that I know, have a reasonably good posture with a driver. It seems to appeal to them. They've got straight legs, they've got a little bit of body incline, hands are separate from the body, and they seem to work that out pretty well and quite easily in most cases. For the mid-irons, they may make some small changes, bend over slightly, move the hands a little bit that way or that way towards them or not. But really no great significant difference between the body posture of the driver and, say, the mid-irons. Now, these changes there may not look terribly much, but when we change the point of reference from the feet to the ball, we can see just how drastic some of these adjustments need to be. Now, in all honesty, most players have the biggest amount of problem when you go from the biggest club to one of the smaller ones, from the driver to, say, a pitching wedge. And often these changes are done at moments of great pressure. So how do we go through the process of perhaps standardizing the address positions for golfers? I'm not saying that every player should have exactly the same posture. Of course not, because people are tall, they're short, they're wide, they're long arms, they're short legs, etc. But what we have to do is find out what the player needs, get him to make a note of where his body positions are, and then use those on the golf course. For example, you might see the driver, where the hands are, where the butt of the club is and where it's pointing, how far it is from the leading leg at the point of address. When we go to the mid-iron, there may be some small changes. He may take directly from the fingers of the trailing hand, in other words, standing back a little bit, hands a little bit more forward, and the butt of the club can be pointing to the stomach, so because the angle of the club is slightly different. All these changes can be measured on the practice area, find out what works, and then taken to the golf course. For example, the pitching wedge, you can be saying, okay, we want the hands almost touching the thighs, but not quite, for say 30 meters. If it's a 50-meter shot, we might lift the hands up a little bit, take the hands out a little bit more, bend the body over a little bit more, but making a note of each of these changes, each of these dimensions, so that there's a more realistic ability to change from the practice area to the golf course. Not all golfers are the same, of course, but every golfer can find out what works for them on the practice area, make a note of it, and then carry those notes onto the golf course, so that when you go from a driver to a pitching wedge, 30 meters shot, you turn to that page and you go, okay, where should my hands be? Where should the butt of the club be pointing? Where should my posture be? It's all a case of making it easier and more repeatable for the golfer on the golf course.